going to discuss the types of variables. There are main three types of variable, which are static variables. You can also call them as class variables, and the other one is instance variables and local variables. So let's discuss them with the help of example. So first of all, I will create class instance variables, as the class is created with a name of instance variables. So I'm going to create a variable of int type with a name num1 and give them value 10. So this is the variable. This is a instance variable. This is an instance variable. This way we declare instance variables. We commonly use instance variables. So I'm going to make a function of increment, public void. I have named the function as increment, and then brackets. I'm not passing any parameters, and what I have done in the function is num1 plus plus. The double plus sign is used for increment. The num as 10 value. When I will call the function, its value will become 11 after increment. So let's go to the main method, public static void main, and then string arguments. Yes. Instance. Let's create objects of class. The class name is instance variables, and we have to create object. I will name it as object1, and this is equal to new instance of class. This is the way we create objects of class. First the name of class, and then the name we want to give an object of class, and then equal it to the new instance of the class. In this way, let's create another object. So the name of class instance variables, and the object I'm going to name it as object2, and then equal to new instance. I have created two objects, and what this obj1 is the object of class instance variable, and obj2 is also the object of class instance variables. obj1 has its own num1 value, and obj2 has its own num2 value. How we can call them? We can call it as obj1 dot num1. In this way, if you want to call the obj1 num value, then you type this. If you want to call obj2 dot num value, then you can type simply this. In this way we call the variables of objects. So instance variables have values which depend upon the instance of class. Here we have created two objects and assigned two new instances. We have created obj1 of class instance variable, which is equal to new instance of instance variables. So obj1 has its own num value. So let's call increment function obj1 dot increment, and after that obj1 has 11 value, and we can say that let's print out system dot out dot print line obj1 dot num1. Yes, and after that, if we call system dot out dot print obj2 dot 1, we created an instance variable of int type. The name is num1 and the value is 10. We created a function public void increment. The name of function is increment, and what these functions do, increment the value of num1. Then we create two objects, obj1 and obj2 of class instance variable and make them equal to new instance of class, because we are going to create a new object and we have to assign it new instances. So these are the two objects. Each object, if the object has instance variables, each object has its own variable value. obj1 has its own num1 value and obj2 has its own num1 value. So what I have done, I have increment in the object 1 which has 10 value, and after increment its value become 11. And now I have displayed the obj2.num which has its own value, so its value is 10. Let's run. As you can see, after increment the obj1 has 11 value and the obj2 has 10 value. These are the instance variables. They depend upon the instance of the class. Their values change with respect to the instance of class. And the other type is static variables. What are static variables? So in order to declare static variables, we just have to write static this way. Now the int variable is static. So what are static variables? Static variables does not depend upon the instance of the class. They does not change their value with respect to the instance. They depend upon the class. They are used within the class. So what does that mean? If we increment, if we call let's say we have called the increment function of obj1. After increment its value is 11, so obj1 has 11 value, and when we display obj2 its value should also be 11, because static variables does not depend upon the instance. Once its value has changed, its value affects the whole class. We cannot say the obj1 has its own value and the obj2 has its own value. When we write static, it affects the whole class. Once its value is changed, its value change in all the instances. So as you can see, when we use instance variables, each object has its own value, and when we run program as static variable, you can see both the objects have 11 value, as we have not applied the increment function to object 2. The reason is that we have used static variables which affect the whole class. Once a static variable value is changed, its value affect the whole class, affect the all instances. Instance variable depends upon the instance, and static variable depend upon the whole class. Its value is changed, its value affect the whole class, and instance variable value is changed, then it affect only the object of instance. So the other type are local variables. What are local variables? The variables that are used within the function, and the variables that cannot be accessed outside the function. So for example, we have declared num1 is equal to 10. This is the, let's remove static. We have declared num1 of int type and give it value 10, and we again create int num1 is equal to 15, and then we will just print it. Yes. Now what we have done, there are two variables, both have same name, num1 and num1. This is local variable because this is variable used within the function, and this cannot be accessed outside the function. Let me so let's understand this. Let's create a object of class instance variables, and we name it as obj1 equal to new instance of, yes. Now if I call the function obj1 dot increment, now what this function has done, this function will have int value of 15 and then print it. So let's run. It will print 15, and if we want to display system dot out dot print line obj1 dot num1. Now if we want to display the num1 of obj1, then let's run this. Its value is 10. We have called the increment function, and the num1 has 15 value. If the local variable can be accessed outside the function, then the 15 should be displayed instead of 10. As you can see, 10 is displayed. So this num1 is accessed because this num1 is inside the function and it is local variable. It cannot be accessed outside the function, so 10 is displayed here. If you have any queries, you can ask me. Thanks for watching.